Our program will now resume. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Otto BOLDON.
Thank you very much. Those of you who were with us this morning, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with 22-time Olympic medalist Michael Phelps. So in keeping with that theme of having me interview people with a lot more Olympic medals than I do, please look at the video monitor.
You get up! He's broken the world record. It's the greatest sprinting performance you'll ever see. The king has come from nowhere. 9.99 with an oversized American flag and 90,000 ringing in his ears on the track right now. There he is looking back. He was looking back at the replay.
Oh, what a good jump. It's Carl Lewis all the way. And Lewis wins this. Baptista second, Jefferson third, and silver in fourth place. And 19.81.
8 meters and 54 centimeters, 28 feet and a quarter of an inch.
Ladies and gents, please help me to welcome on stage the greatest track and field athlete of the last century and the greatest long jumper to ever walk the face of the earth, Carl Lewis.
Or something after that. My goodness.
You might. It's early still. Carl, let me start not too far from where we are right now at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum.
Yeah.
It was a while back, but tell me your memories of Los Angeles '84 and the performances that made you a household name in this country and around the world.
Thanks for having me, first of all. Thanks. Hope you guys enjoying it. But you know what was interesting about LA, because when I made the team, everyone said, oh, the weather's going to be bad, it's going to be smog and a lot of traffic, but everything was perfect. And the strange thing about LA in '84, which is just about 10 minutes away, was that we had no idea how to do it. You know, no one had ever trained for it that was really alive, because Jesse Owens had passed away, and my coach didn't know, I didn't know, so it was an unknown. And to win that 100 meters, that first race, that was a big exhale, because to me that was like 60%. And the difficult part about it was that I competed 7 out of 8 consecutive days. And so each day you get more and more tired and you wear down a little bit. But it was just something. But I do remember this. When I crossed the relay line and I went home that night with the 4th gold medal, I was in bed that night and I said, wow, I couldn't really sleep because I was so excited. And I said, you just turned 23 years old. You're the biggest star in the world, and you'll never be bigger than this ever again
it's all
the rest of your life. It's right. So what are you going to do? And so fortunately, I had 12 more years in it.
Yeah, no question about that. It was a phenomenal event, and certainly your performances are there for the world to see forever. I want to talk about your mother and father, both of them track and field coaches. Now Michael was up here this morning and talking about how influential his first and his only coach was. Would you be the athlete that you were, that you are, without your parents' influence as coaches?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because my mother started the track club that I started in because she was like a 60s feminist. They were both teachers. They met in college. And she wanted girls to have a chance to run track. And so she started a track team because they didn't have track and field for girls in our town. And then the next year, boys joined, and that's how I got in. But what was great and unique for me is that, you know, my mother made the Olympic team in 1952, and so she was that type of coach. She was a hard-driving coach, and really dedicated. My father was a disciplinarian. He was that kind of guy. But the thing is that when you have 300 kids that you have to be in charge of, you can't spend all your time on us. So I had the best of both worlds. I had these great driving parents in the house that understood it, but they were not overbearing, because it was like they couldn't watch me. Because I remember a lot of races where when I was 12 or 13 or something, when, you know, and I'd run the race, and like, Dad didn't see it. And then Mom would say, you didn't push out of the blocks. I'm like, where is she? You know, she was talking to the relay team 2 minutes ago, you know. So that was kind of what my upbringing was. But the most amazing thing, being from Jersey, my year, my parents were teachers. I went to their school. They were track coaches. I was on their track club. So that was my life. I'd lived in New Jersey. I did not know the Jersey Shore existed until after I was like in my 20s. So I was like cold chicken and track meets, and they were at had hot water taffy and on the beach. But so it was just, that was just what was normal to me.
For a long time after you retired, we saw you going around the world with Nike, speaking to kids and so on. But you never made the jump to actually becoming an official coach. And yet you've done that recently. Tell me what prompted that decision.
Well, you know, when I retired, I focused more like my parents. I started working with young people. I went to massage therapy school, and my coach, Coach Tellez, and I talked a lot about it, and we watched it. But I was sitting in London, and the United States did not win a gold medal in the 100 meters, the 200 meters, the 400 meters, the long jump, the 4x100 and 4x4 relay. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. That has to be an Olympic record. And I'm sitting here understanding that the way the landscape has changed so much, especially at the collegiate level. You know, you and I went to college.
Yep.
The emphasis was to go to the Olympics and to college kids. Now the emphasis is you've got to win those team titles because the budget changes and all of this. And so I really felt that if I moved back to Houston, that I would help out at the university where I went to school. Well, 2 years later, I ended up moving back, 2013, and so I went out and volunteered, and Leroy asked me to come on the staff last year. So the interesting thing about it, what freed me, is because Coach Tellez, my coach, coached me. When he recruited me, he said, if you come to my school, I'll coach you your whole career. Well, you know, I was 17, and I'm just some kid. Well, 18 years later, I retired. But the great thing about it, he never asked me for a dime. Matter of fact, I owe him about $10,000 in ones. I never carried
That's
cash.
It? For 18 years of coaching?
No, that I borrowed, because I never carried cash. You know, I owe him millions of dollars. But he would never take anything. So that was the one thing I did. I said, if I ever coach, I will not charge. So actually, I'm on the staff, but I don't take a salary. And in reality, it frees me up.
Right. Because
when I go into kids' houses, I say, look, I had success. I don't take a salary. I'm here for you. It's not about me. I'm not leaving. This is my job. So it really helps in recruiting wise.
Now, I don't know if this has been your experience, but I too waited a long time before I got into the whole coaching thing, because my experience was that a lot of the kids now, I call it almost the lotto generation. Right. They want it immediately, immediate results. What has been your experience recruiting and now having to coach these young talents? Well,
you're right. I mean, I think a lot of parents understand that too. I have a 20-year-old, so I did understand a lot of that part of it. But the thing about it is that they do want the instant gratification. But honestly, I tell them, look, it takes time, and they're like, well, they go through this stuff. I'm like, dude, wait, hold on. I come out here every day on my own time, spend my time trying to help you get better. I don't take any money for it. You get a scholarship. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your drama. Leave it at the door. Leave your cell phone in the locker room. Leave your spotlight in your bag, and let's go to work.
No cell phone. Wow, you really are a tough coach.
No. Cell phone stays in the room. And,
this generation, they don't play that.
Well, you know what? And then, the thing is that they always say, I need my phone to get ready. I said, no, getting ready happens Monday through Friday, okay? If you wait till Saturday, you're already lost.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right. But I think that the way it's set up, people say I'm old school. I think it's the real school. Nothing's really changed. It's just that people change, but the basics still stay the same.
Now, you talked about what the U.S. Didn't do in 2012, not winning gold in those events. There are a lot of people that I talk to, and they say that the really good track and field athletes from this country are out playing other sports. They're in the NBA, they're in the NFL. Is that something that you agree with?
Well, yes and no. You know, even if it was correct, if all the greatest athletes went to other sports, it doesn't matter. You know, it's not for us to say, well, everyone else is gone. No, there are more kids participate in track and field at the youth level than any other sport in the United States. So it's really our job to show them. You know, I mean, like for instance, we have kids that are maybe a high jumper or a sprinter, and if they're third or fourth string sitting on the college bench, I can tell them, look, you have enough talent to go to the Olympics. It's our job to convince them that, you know, what's the greatest path for you, you know, and what are you trying to accomplish? So whether that's true or not is irrelevant to me, and part of that is true. But I think it's an excuse, and in reality, we shouldn't deal in excuses. But we should deal with making our sport where kids want to perform. Great athletes are always been challenged to go there. You look at all the great quarterbacks and things that ran track before. But the reality is that it's our job to make sure that they do it. I'm looking at someone, for instance, Eric Metcalf. And I'll just tell you right now, he just got silver medal at the Pan Am Games. Eric Metcalf's going to be running track in 2 years because he's playing at Buffalo. He's a good player, great guy. Not Eric Metcalf.
The long jumper.
The long jumper, yeah. We'll get it.
Okay,
see, I'm showing my age now, right?
We both are.
Eric Metcalf is my age. I'm way up. They're like,
you
saying,
said Eric Metcalf.
Like, who the hell is
Metcalf.
he? Are you kidding
me?
Yeah. You know, I know them. But we'll get it in a minute. But anyway, Marquise Goodwin.
Thank you.
He's at Buffalo. He caught one pass last year. Not saying he's bad. He's a great athlete. But he won the silver medal in the Pan Am Games. I bet you he will come back to track because at the end of the day, it's something he loved both, and he'll play football. But there's nothing like an Olympic gold medal. He thinks he has a shot. There's nothing like these championships. You're treated that way. So if we get people like that and cultivate them, then I think our sport can compete with those sports for the best athletes.
Now, as somebody who got a chance to go around the world, still gets a chance to go around the world, and you get to interact with the world's young population, the world's young children, is there something that you see that is unique maybe to this generation in terms of the young athlete?
Well, you know what's great, what I do like about it is that the way they can communicate. I mean, we all know that the cell phone is a challenge for young people, but I love it because I was in Barbados 3 weeks ago, and I was in Costa Rica last week, and these kids can communicate. If you go to the World Youth Games down in Colombia, basically in our day, it was over. You saw them at the meet and you saw them competing. But nowadays, they can go online, they can communicate, and I just think that's great, that they can connect more and understand other cultures. And it's easy to go to Colombia and come home and then stay in touch on a general basis, and I think it'll help, especially the American kids. It'll help us understand that there is a real world out there, not just everyone staring at us saying, I want to come to America, but a world where people love where they live and what they do, and it'll make our kids more mature.
Yeah, I want to give you guys a chance to ask some questions of Carl. Before I move on to that, though, is there something that you can point to when you look back at your own career to say, you know what, this is why I was able to be so good for so long? Because that's a challenge that every athlete faces, trying to have that longevity in a career. What was the thing that you could point to?
Well, you know what, I think it's pretty simple. I always blame myself. I think that in my career, I always looked in the mirror and really beat the guy up in the mirror all the time. I challenged him for how to get better. And I think that when I went to Houston, you know, Coach Tellez recruited me to go to the University of Houston. He was my only coach. I trained on the University of Houston track my whole career. Then I went to Santa Monica, my only club. I had one manager. I always looked at myself for the reason something went wrong. I never blamed other people. And Coach Tellez was the same way. And he was the kind of guy that taught me early about being the best. I mean, I remember one time I set a world record. And then 2 weeks later, when I was in college, 2 weeks later I went to NCAA and I was winning. And he's like, dude, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm winning. And he goes, well, if you're that good, you got it. And he left. You know, he just left the stadium. And I'm like, okay. So he taught me early it was about being the best you can be. And so I think, especially now, which I notice, is that have discussions with the person in the mirror about your performance first, instead of always going to the people in front of you.
Yeah, do we have some questions out?
Oh, okay.
Yes,
oh, it's
right
like
here.
a number running. Okay, hey, look at that.
Hi, Hi, my name is Aaron Liebig. I'm here from the University of Michigan. I was wondering, as you kind of transition to coaching now, are you more kind of aware of your legacy and how would you like to be remembered, whether touching young people's lives as a coach or as an athlete who did all those amazing things in the Olympics and really progressed the sport?
You know, yeah, it is a good question. No one's really asked me that, and I guess I'll answer it as I'm thinking about it. but the thing is, I think what the legacy is hard because you're who you are. I think where I understand my legacy more is when I go places that I've never been around the world and people know me. It's like, wait a minute, I've never been here, and I've been retired for 18 years. But the great thing about it there is that I can go in, and I hope to one day meet a kid that I coached that can win 9 gold medals. I mean, and I hope that I can get someone that could break all my records because, you know, like I say, medals are owned, records are borrowed. And so it frees me up to just be a little bit tougher on the kids because a lot of times they're like, well, yeah, I'm like, dude, I did that workout, okay? So let's not worry about it. Trust me.
It won't kill you.
Yeah, well, you'll be all right. In my day, we didn't drink water, okay? So we didn't know any better, you know. It was like, so I guess what it does is it frees me up to be a little bit tougher on the kids than a lot of people are because a lot of times the kids are coming with everyone compromising to them. And, you know, and I guess you all understand, I think a lot of times in our culture, we're in a culture of mediocrity. And so I preach excellence from day one. And so the workouts, when I first started coaching, the workouts change. And the guys are like, we have to run that? I'm like, dude, you go upstairs and look at the ledger. We did it all. So I think that's where it helps me the best. It gives me a chance to push them more than I think they would have been pushed.
You talked about a culture of mediocrity. One second. You talked about a culture of mediocrity very briefly. Tell me what you see as the danger of having participation medals.
Oh, my goodness gracious. You know, I think that participation medals, it teaches you that it's okay to show up. And you know what? If a lot of athletes are, I came up mainly as a track and soccer player. I was ahead in soccer than I was in track and field. So if I'd come up now, I would have been a soccer player. And so I think that by just saying, here, you showed up, here's a medal, we're not teaching kids to be excellent. We're teaching them that average is okay. And then a lot of young people will not find what they want to do because they can just be average and be a part of it. You know, we like to do things easy and have success. But the earlier you learn that this may not be for you, you may not be great at this, you may learn something different or understand how difficult it is to be successful, I think you will be better in the long run in your life.
Question over here on the left.
Almost an accident. Carl, what an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we're running a project to sportify the class. So we want to kind of learn what we can learn from sport, get into the classroom to make learning more exciting. Mm-hmm. So we would like to hear from you, what can the teachers learn from coaches?
What can the teachers learn from coaches?
Yeah, it's breaking up. Yeah, what can the teachers learn from coaches in the psychology for students? How can they support? What is the energy that they need to build? And is it okay? Because a lot of times you see in classes, we talked with Otto about that, you see in classes that teachers don't want anyone to lose. But that's not exactly the case in sports. Someone is the winner. So what do you think about these things?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. Number one, if you look at boys, the first thing is that they're fidgety. You know, and I think that to understand the movement of that. So I think if teachers gave kids more projects where they could be physical in class, that would be good for them, especially boys, because they're real fidgety. Another thing, competition. Kids always like to compete, especially in groups, and they really enjoy it. The losing group says, oh, we lost, but then that's next time. Because I always say, you know, a 9-year-old, they lose the race, they cry, and then you go to McDonald's and they're asking for a Happy Meal. You know, I mean, it's that simple. You know, I mean, it really is. And so I think that we need to realize that they're tougher than we think. And competition, friendly competition is always good for kids. So if we can get them doing more physical activities, even in classrooms, and have even, whether it's group or individual competition, then I think a lot of kids would learn better and enjoy learning much, much more.
Every athlete has sort of a personal reason that they get involved with charity. What was yours?
You know, honestly, I'm 54 now, and I look back. It's my parents it wasn't anything conscious. It's just that, like I said, they were teachers, they were coaches. In the 60s, they were involved in the civil rights movement. In the 50s, they were very close to the King family, so we did that. So I realize now it wasn't anything that I consciously did. It was just something that I grew up doing. And it was normal for me to be an activist because my parents were activists. And, and then when I got older and people reached out to me to do things, I wanted to help and be involved. And so it was just something that was normal. And now that I got older, that was it. And then I also love working with kids because that's how I came up. I came up through an age group program. And when I got into my teens, I was coaching some of the younger kids. And then I got older, I started doing the same thing. And now I have an age group track club. So I basically become my parents. And that's what it is. And a lot of people tell me, you're just like your father, And he was tough. He was real tough.
So you're a tough coach, you admit that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I tell you something,
Is there could you be an effective coach without being tough, though?
Well, I think discipline. I'm about discipline first and structure. And I think that kids really want that, but a lot of times we're afraid to tell them.
Right.
And be on time, hear the rules. Every single person, like when I first have my first meeting with the group, I tell them, we're going to constantly recruit the best kids in the country. We had the #1 recruiting class this year in the country. So I told them last year, some of you are not going to be here next year. And I tell them this year, some of you will not be here next year. So I pair them up from the best 2, the next 2 down. So you know what? If you're in the bottom 2 or 3 group, you're not going to be here next year.
Right.
You're going to get a nice little unconditional release to go somewhere and get your education, or you're going to stop. So therefore, all season long, these kids are competing to get up in the group because they know. So if you don't move up in the group, you're probably moving out.
Probably the way it should be.
And that's the way it is.
Our thanks for you joining us here at the Doha Ghost 2015.
Great, thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Carl
Good
Lewis.
seeing you, man.